What's up, everybody? It's Dallas with There's Hope channel. Glad y'all can tap in with me today. We got another Sunday recap. We're gonna jump right into it. So I went to visit a different church today, and I thought it was really good. So just want to share a little bit of the sermon notes with you. He read a ton of scriptures. I won't read all of them, but he read out of Acts 7 and Exodus and Peter. But essentially the story was on Moses. So he was just piecing it all together. And so the sermon topic was Moses, an instrument of deliverance. The name Moses actually means to draw out. And another note I wrote is God used Moses to draw the children of Israel out of Egypt. All right, I'm gonna just share a few points that stuck out to me. All right. So Moses, at some point, Moses thought that God was using him to deliver the people. But with that being said, Moses did that within his own hand initially. So as you read the story of Moses, we all know that Moses, or if you don't know, get familiar with it. Moses ends up killing an Egyptian who was mistreating a Hebrew slave. So the next day, two Hebrews are getting into it. So now Moses goes to try to, smooth things out. Hey guys, hey, let's chill. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We're brothers. And one of the Hebrews pushed Moses aside. He was like, who are you? Who's made you our judge or to judge us? And he was like, what are you going to do? You going to kill me like you killed that Egyptian? So at that point, Moses leaves. And it's because he moved faster than he should have. He was doing this within his own power. Like, yes, God had called Moses. He was going to use Moses to deliver the people. But Moses didn't have, as the speaker was saying, a full understanding, a full picture of what God was doing. Moses had a reduced understanding or a reduced idea of what God was going to do. And how I related that to myself was sometimes we do the same thing by acting on things without a full understanding of what God is doing. So God may be doing something in my life and I'm excited about it. And then I just go and try to do it in my own strength and end up failing. But that's why it's important for us to spend time with God to figure out what the actual plan is. Yeah, so with that being said, going into my next point, it's like God then gives Moses the plan. There's a story that God is speaking to Moses from the burning bush, and he gives Moses instructions. And this is like the turning point because now Moses knows what he should be doing. But sometimes, so during this conversation, Moses essentially doesn't really want to do it. But sometimes when we fail, apathy starts to kick in. And what I wrote down for that is we end up saying, I tried, but I failed. I don't want to try again and fail. So we start to suppress any ambition because of our previous failure. That happens. We see that even happen. Moses did not want to be bothered with the idea of delivering the children of Israel. It's because of what had happened before too. And another point was God's plan is not for us to go at it alone. God gives Moses instructions. He says, go grab the elders of Israel along with Aaron and y'all go and approach Pharaoh. And what I wrote down with that is, who is God calling us to do this faith walk with? Since he has not called us to do it alone, who is he calling us to do it with, side by side? All right. And of course, there's so much to this story. I'm just recapping it. One of the things he shared that really caught my eye, he said that Moses was self-centered, insecure, unwilling, and needed convincing from God to do God's plan. And if you read the story of Moses, you'll know why he's saying these things. But the point he said was we act like Moses too. That's very true. We can be selfish. We can be self-centered and insecure and unwilling to do things. But God, by his Holy Spirit, will work in and on us and through us to make sure we fulfill his plan. And I think the last part I want to share is that he said that Moses was part of a plan. He wasn't the plan. Ultimately, we end up running outside of our coverage. That's something that he shared because when we don't have understanding of God, we end up doing things in our own strength and we fail. But when we understand that we're part of a plan and not the plan, we realize we need to go to God to figure out what the plan is. And that's why it's important for us to know that it's bigger than us, and to do it with others and not by ourselves. And I wrote this. It says, church is made up of individuals who God uses together to fulfill his plan. So that's a huge part of this. You know, Moses was an instrument of deliverance. We're instruments or servants or ministers of God's plan, pushing forward the gospel. The Bible uses several scriptures about how we ought to support those who are less fortunate, those who are afflicted, those who are sick. So we're all parts of this plan, of God's plan, and we're instruments or vessels that God used to fulfill his ultimate plan. The last thing I want to say is a question he posed. He says, now that you've heard this truth, how will you function and or operate? And that was a great call to action in a form of a question. So essentially, my takeaway was, now knowing that, I have to make sure I'm making myself available to be an instrument of what God is doing in my local fellowship. So you, likewise, take some time to think about that. Now that you know that we're instruments in God's church, in this earth, for his plan, think about what that's going to look like for you to operate and function from that truth. Hey, it's been a good one. I hope that you can take away something from this actual you take away something from this actual recap. I hope you have a wonderful week, and as I always say, no matter what you're going through, no matter what's happening in your life, always know there's hope. Peace.